Gentlemen, it is our great pleasure to gather here today to our annual Piraeus market presentation this year with so many valued members, partners, and friends of the American Club. We are very pleased this year to welcome a very special individual and long-standing associate of the club, Mr. Vince Solarino, honoring us today. We would also like to pay special thanks for honoring with representatives from the U.S. Embassy today. Unfortunately, the U.S. ambassador was unable to join us. Special thanks to our board members, Mrs. Maria Christina Ktistaki and Mrs. Katerina Helioti, for honoring us with their presence and for their dedication and support to the association's mission and goals always. As we look at past policy years, 2025 policy year soon to come to an end and beyond, the American Club's goal remains clear: to deliver transparency, stability, and excellent claim service in an ever-evolving risk environment. So I won't keep you any longer. Without further ado, we will start our market presentation with our CEO, Mrs. Dorothea Ioannou. Before we conclude, our COO, Mr. Daniel Tadros, will be paying special tribute to a member and for a salvage operation involving exceptional courage, skills, and seamanship, and the critical role that this operation played in saving life, property at sea, and averting great environmental damage. So please welcome Ms. Dorothea Ioannou.
Kalispera και από μένα. Thank you, everybody. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here and see so many wonderful, familiar faces that make me comfortable to get up in front of a room and speak. So thank you for that. Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking, as Joanna said, about the progress of the club, giving you some information, a little bit of an update. But first I'm going to start with some information I know everybody has been asking me about. Yes, I got married in June. Okay. Thank you. The significance of that, because many of you know that this is the second attempt. Different person. Anyway, okay. But the significance of that, and as we get to the end of the year and we start looking at 2026, words like hope start to come up into our vocabulary. And what I think, why the significance of this event that happened this year is, it absolutely is the ultimate proof that hope will always triumph over experience. So with no further ado, we're going to start a little bit and give you some background on what we've been doing for the last probably 3 to 4 years, which will explain where we are today. So before statistics, last year and the year before, we spoke to you about how post-2021, post-COVID, we really saw that the world had changed, and we understood that we had to take some drastic measures and figure out how are we going to adapt to this crazy environment around us, this world. And so we did extremely detailed analysis. We use both internal and external actuaries, independent, in order to understand what is happening with our constituency, with our membership, and also what's going on in the market, and how we can possibly begin to mitigate at least the potential for negative trends getting out of control. So while these kind of reviews were always a part of our assessment, they, from 2022 onwards, became a much more frequent review. So the process became dynamic. We didn't wait to see what happened after a year. We started to look at things much more frequently, and as we saw developments, we would make the changes. So we would actually adapt the underwriting model as we were moving throughout the underwriting year. So for us, it's become an extremely dynamic process. It's our approach to an evolving underwriting model, and it seems to have been serving us quite well, because it also informs claims and it informs loss prevention from a real-time perspective. Within that also, there's other aspects of risk assessment that sometimes people tend to forget or perhaps not even mention. Probably not forget. They definitely don't forget it. But there's certain aspects like your due diligence, your background checks, your compliance, your regulatory, your legal, which obviously has become forefront of everybody's operations now. But on top of that also, we also look at credit risk. Because sometimes if you don't pay attention, not sometimes, if you don't pay attention to credit risk, that can also be that can also cause a negative trend in terms of your overall performance. So what's happening now is, as we saw things developing, we were adapting the model, we were changing the rates, we were changing the way we underwrite, we were changing our risk appetite. And in addition to that, learning from that analysis, we expanded the vessel survey program, and in some instances actually also integrated interactive management audits, which helped many of our members, and that encompasses both the operations ashore and on board, and how that integration works from a risk assessment from our own members' perspective. So within that also, obviously, we need to look at how we communicate both internally, externally, and so we have constantly and continuously invested also in system upgrades, and that has to do with the way we share information internally, the way we access information when we're on the road or when we're working on our projects, but also how we interface with the market. So having said all of that, that gives you the background to what we are about to see. Now, the dynamic process that we have in terms of our underwriting model affects both the vessel type and the domicile profile of the club. You'll see in terms of management domicile, the majority of the tonnage comes from Europe, Middle East, and Africa. To be expected, I think we all in this market understand that. And then the rest of it divided between Asia and the Americas. From a vessel type perspective, the club is weighted more in bulkers, followed by tankers, with general cargo, passenger, ro-ro next in line, followed also by smaller tug and barge and small craft, and that is usually in jurisdictions that require the higher liability requirements. So the way that we approach risk assessment obviously affects this. They are data-driven models, and they are very intense with respect to the specific vessel and region risk categories. Now here, it looks scary. I know it's all red and it's all really high. So this is important for people to understand, that when we are looking at how we judge our performance or how we look at losses, it's not only about the regular claims, it's about the big picture. So this chart includes all net projected ultimate exposures for claims on the mutual, including contributions, our contributions to the pool, so to other clubs' claims, and also the reinsurance cost, because this is net of the reinsurance recoveries. So the cost of the reinsurance is what gets you the net result. So you have to look at all these three things together in order to understand your actual performance from a loss perspective. So you'll see from the graph that 2024 was especially high. It's currently tracking as the worst pool claim year in history. I'm sure you've read about that in the market, in broker reports, and from other clubs. But in general, the thing is, in general, if you look at this picture, the overall picture from 2019 reflects a persistent and continuing elevated claims and reinsurance environment. We referred to that in the past as a new risk landscape, but I think we have to talk about it now as a current risk landscape. So recognizing, like I said earlier, this evolving environment back in 2021, we began to implement some significant change. So we know that P&I, though, has a long tail. So when we first started to do the analysis and really integrate from all departments the way that we do risk assessment, we didn't expect to have an immediate impact. We expected it to take some time. Keeping in mind that what we did could only affect our own direct claims. We cannot have any impact on what's going on within the pool and, of course, within the reinsurance environment. So, despite the volatility and the severity that's been seen across the board, the results actually were quite impressive. This is the picture of our direct claims impact on our own losses. So, in order for you to understand some of the numbers, in 2022 we did have 2 pool claims. So the total direct gross claims are 208 million. So that's the first line. That's the blue. The red is the net exposure to us, which was 58 million, taking into account the reinsurance recoveries. Now, of course, reinsurance definitely saved us that year. But looking beyond that, which is the point that we made the changes in how we approach risk from our own direct claims, you will see after that that the gross claims dropped drastically. So in 2023, the total gross claims were 46. In 2024, again, we had 2 moderate pool claims, but this time 65 million, not 200 million. And 2025 currently tracking at 20 million. That is as at October 2025. So we still have some more months to go. So now, this dynamic risk approach that we have now, combined with reinsurance restructuring as well, brought the claims down net from 58 million in 2022 to 51 million in 24, making about 45% of the 2024 net losses exposure here being made up of pool contributions and reinsurance. So through claims and loss prevention strategies, we've also attacked certain types of claims, in particular people claims, especially affected by social inflation across all jurisdictions now. It's not just a U.S. phenomenon. Our expanded surveys and our loss prevention initiatives, such as the Good Catch series, are also targeting the human element in causation while adjusting deductibles and addressing also the alarming rise in cargo claims values in specific regions. So all of these things are coming together quite nicely. Looking at pool claims by themselves tells another interesting picture. So pool claims, that's the wild card. The blue bar tracks the position of the club's contribution to the pool based on actual incurred and reserved. And the red bar reflects the ultimate exposure, which has, it's inclusive of IBNR, as of, though, October 2025. So while you'll see that 2025 appears moderated in comparison to the worst pool year, which was 2024, and in fact looks like the way 2023 was, which was a good year, we have to keep in mind that 2025 is only as of September 2025. So we still have 5 more months of development on the 2025 year, and it's already reflecting pretty much the full amount of the 2023. So while we don't expect it to be like 2024, we do expect it to fall somewhere in between those 2 years. Investment performance, thank goodness there's a lot of green up there. So in general, it's been positive. We bounced back from 22, having the 10% negative, bounced back to an 8% return. 2024 recorded 4.6, falling in line in general with our historical average return. And then the last report from investment advisors this past month show almost 8% return so far for 2025, and that seems to be holding. Thank you. So our investment allocation obviously is a conservative one. We are a regulated financial entity in New York State and subject to great oversight. So let's move on to the fixed book of business now. Let's see what happened there. So the fixed book of business, Eagle Ocean Marine, also went through a rigorous deep dive from an actuarial perspective. And that also obviously affected domicile and vessel type. It went through a major process of refinement and de-risking after 2021. And this has brought about a much more balanced portfolio, both from domicile and tonnage. The majority of the tonnage is split now between Northeast Asia and Europe, with the regulatory expansion of our American Club Europe supporting that domicile growth. You will note also on the vessel type, we have a balance between three sectors. So it's dry cargo, the majority, but closely followed by small craft and small regionally trading tankers. These vessels are also subject to a very high due diligence process, as well as very strict survey requirements. And in addition, the risk appetite for this particular book of business on the fixed is driven by an aversion to passenger and container tonnage. Remember, these are the smaller coastal trading vessels that don't need the high liabilities that we offer with the mutual. So let's see what happened on E.O.M. when we started to take this approach. I think this story is also a good story. So having enhanced the risk assessment approach in order to mitigate the persistence of potential negative trends, again, we didn't expect to see immediate results. We did see the immediate results. And so in 2022, we were experiencing, from a gross perspective, 22 million. Again, the blue is the gross, and the red is the net. So 22 million in 22-23, dropped to 12 million in 23, and then 4 million in 24. Of course, it is still developing, but it's tracking ahead of the previous years. And then the current year is tracking at 1.5 million at the halfway point. So again, the impact almost immediate. So we are absolutely pleased with that. So this gives you the big picture of E.O.M. from a combined loss ratio perspective. So this is what shows you that this 360-degree view makes a difference. So it's not just about understanding what you want to write, but it's understanding how you want to write it. It's understanding what's the minimum level of premium that you need to charge in order for something to be sustainable, for the risk that you're underwriting to be sustainable. So this slide tracks performance measured by the net loss ratio from 2012 and to date. So obviously, as E.O.M. was not immune to the disruption impacting 21 to 22, both with respect to claims as well as to reinsurance, we did that deep dive as well as individualized account-by-account review. We implemented the modifications. We adapted the model. And so despite some of the spikes now, we see the net loss ratio is trending significantly downwards. And just 1 year ago when we gave this report, the historical loss ratio was 96%. Today, it's 86%. This slide gives you the big picture. So the blue line tracks the combined ratio since 2018, and this excludes the impact and the effect of unforecasted supplementary calls, as well as any E.V.P, which is an accounting practice managing the policy years. On the red line, we track the cumulative premium growth percentage since 2018, and on the green is the tonnage growth. We should have done the premium, but that's okay. I'll fix that next year. So what do you see here now? The rising combined loss ratio trend has been tempered, with a break-even result turning surplus for 2023. The premium growth now is back up to the levels of 2023 and 50% more than it was in 2018. The tonnage growth is up by 20% since 2018, but in terms of comparison to 2023, which was the peak of the tonnage and the premium volume, the risk that we have from an exposure perspective is now somewhere between 20 and 25% less than 2023. So what does this tell us? It tells us that we have a lower overall trend of combined loss ratio, which is exactly where we want to be. And then we have a continuing development of premium growth tracking ahead of tonnage. So the difference in the performance has to do with this dynamic risk adaptation process. It informs the underwriting profile, and that supports the rate alignment, and that is what is the key to being sustainable. To illustrate this better, in 2021, we had 20.3 million gross tons entered with 80 million of annualized premium. So 20 million GT, 80 million premium. As of November 2025, again, we have 20.9 million GT with 112 million of annualized premium. The combined loss ratio has steadily dropped while the premium continues to grow ahead of tonnage. So another important and significant statistic that we track, it's not shown on the slide, our renewing fleet loss ratio has been steadily improving. So post-2022, it was at 63%, and after the last renewal, it's now in the region of 50%, and that is definitely a strong indicator of performance going forward. So we are approaching 2026 with greater premium aligned to a current risk landscape, which has resulted in a relative leveling of direct claims over time. Remember, we're talking about the impact to our direct claims over time. But as volatility certainly persists, as we saw from the slide on the pool, and factors such as the pool, inflationary trends, and severity in terms of major casualties, which continue to rise. At the November board meeting, it was judged that an 8% targeted overall increase was needed in order to ensure a better than break even over time, given the long tail of liability claims. So just kind of to recap what's going on with the club. Adaptation to risk is a constant and it's a dynamic process. It can only take place over time, and that is exactly what we are doing. As a small mutual, it's a slow process, but it's evident from the numbers that it is steady and it's positive, and the impact of the strategy implemented since 2022 is tangible already. Now, let's be real. Obviously, when you underwrite risk, you want luck, right? Luck has a lot to do with it as well. However, the right strategy is what can give you the greater potential to have that luck. So the club also represents what we think is a significant and important voice in the industry, all of you right here, small to medium-sized operators, and we are absolutely committed to this sector, and we will continue to ensure that it has a voice in the market and that it is heard. We're committed to our membership. The loyalty that we have experienced is phenomenal and greatly appreciated. And as many of you know, individual good performance is always rewarded in the long term over time. We've always maintained an ethos of being that solutions provider. We want to be that reliable solution provider, and that's both from a commercial problem-solving perspective as well as from a cover perspective. We think outside the box as much as we can. We do not look for the loophole, and we always try and bring the member into the rules, not to shut them out. We're committed to ensuring that that continues, and that remains our highest priority. Furthermore, just as we saw the industry need back in 2011 for an alternative to mutual for the smaller coastal trading sector with E.V.P, we continue to tap into the needs of our membership for new solutions, now offering war alternative cover for our members. And we continue to examine whatever gaps come from the management of claims that we think that our members might need. We pride ourselves on our accessibility to the membership and to the brokers. We try to be flexible in resolving conflict, and I think you all know that we see strength in long-term relationships and not short-term wins. We continue to be absolutely committed to transparency. Somebody else said that to me earlier today, that that's their experience, and I was absolutely delighted to hear that. We believe in explaining our course and our membership understanding the factors behind our performance and the positions that we take. The club has also always ensured that its board of directors is reflective and representative of the diverse constituency, both from a vessel sector trading as well as from a regional perspective. Because we believe that that's the only way that the club can really understand the impact of the policies that that the club implements. And we as managers have always seen ourselves as an extension of the operations of our members. We believe we're part of a larger shipping sector family. As a small club, we have the privilege of actually knowing almost every one of our members, placing our offices strategically where those members tend to concentrate. And we remain committed to what we call this partnership with our members. Before we go on to the next stage of this also, I think that it's important to remember that, and I think I've been speaking about this for many years, our greatest asset is our people. I believe our people are simply the best in the industry. It's their strength, it's their ingenuity, it's their resolve, it's their spirit, it's their authenticity that ensure the continuing resiliency of the club into the future. So thank you for that. Joanna, you want to introduce some?
So we will ask our COO, Mr. Daniel Tadros, to present a very special award to a special member.
Kalispera from me also. You have heard us through the years always talk about, and Dorothea is the greatest beacon of this, how proud we are of our members. They're loyal and they're good people, and we love that, and we honor that. Last month, for those of you that were here, we honored 2 of our members for heroic acts, for saving a number of stranded refugees. But today, it's even a greater honor to honor one of our members that has been honored by the IMO. And they're here, and I will call them up in a second, but I want to read you what the plaque is going to be saying. In recognition of exceptional courage and professionalism displayed by the officers and crew of the mega tugs vessels Aigaio Pelagos and Panormitis during the September 2024 salvage operation of the burning tanker Sounion, which had sustained severe damage in the Red Sea. The salvage operation of the Sounion, which had been attacked and was at the time on fire, was essential in averting a potential environmental disaster in a critical, environmentally sensitive region. So the American Club and the rest of our members and all of us here are honored to welcome Mr. Pavlos Xiradakis and the captain of one of the vessels, Captain Dimitri, to come up here and please honor them.
Dear members of the American P&I Club, dear members of the Hellenic shipping community, dear Dorothea, dear Mr. Tadros, it is a great appreciation and a profound sense of pride that I accept today from the American P&I Club the Heroic Acts Awards for the salvage of the tanker Sounion in the Red Sea in 2024. On behalf of Megatags, and especially on behalf of Captain Dimitris Floris and the crew of salvage tug Aigaio Pelagos, I would like to express our sincere thanks for this great honor. The salvage operation of the Sounion in the Red Sea was one of the most demanding and high-risk incidents we have faced in our nearly 50 years of service, an incident that could have escalated into environmental catastrophe. However, what led us to this success was the professionalism, courage, and unwavering dedication of our Greek seafarers. This distinction belongs first and foremost to them. We are profoundly grateful to the American Club for recognizing the efforts of our seafarers, for highlighting their seamanship, courage, and sense of responsibility, qualities that define them in critical situations where every minute counts. Thanks sincerely for this important distinction, which we accept with pride as a tribute to the spirit and dedication of the Greek seafarers, who even today remain on standby with the salvage tug in Red Sea, ready to respond whenever and however needed for the safety of human life and the protection of marine environment. Thank you very much.
So thank you once again for joining us today despite the stormy weather. We really appreciate your trust, your loyalty, and the strong partnership that defines our work together. Before we invite you to join us for some drinks and nibbles, I would like to take a moment. As you will recall, 2025 is the year that the Piraeus Club celebrates its 20th anniversary. And as Dorothea rightly said, our people are our greatest asset, and we are who our people are. So I would like to invite all the members of the Piraeus team to join me up here.